intellectually honest.
Sure, okay, that's a very good way of putting it. But what do we do in a situation, if I can extend your courtroom analogy, that we have 10 people and there is one person who has been accused of to have committed murder, and there is an atheist who says that, look, until we know enough, we cannot say who did it, but based on this lack of knowledge, I'm absolutely sure that this guy did not do it.
So, sorry, do you just want to repeat that? I got distracted for a moment.
No problem. I'm just extending your courtroom analogy that if an atheist looks at 10 people and, that there is one person who's been accused to have caused murder, and there is an atheist who says that, look, I am not going to say anything until I know enough. But based on my lack of knowledge, I am sure that this guy did not do it.
Well, the thing is, we can't give a positive case for someone that someone has committed the crime. I mean, the thing is, we don't. I mean, I don't know how much you know on this subject, and I don't want to make any assumptions, but you can't disprove a negative. So for example, if I ask you, can you disprove that you're a thief? Can you do that?
Disproving a negative, it's a double negative within the sentence. I believe you're trying to say you cannot prove the negative.
Yeah, but can you prove that you're not a thief?
Sure, I can, yes.
How can you do that?
It requires evidence.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
You just proved my point, mate.
Yeah, sure. But you see, after this laughter, there is something else that comes with it, right? So what is my evidence then? My evidence is cosmological argument, ontological argument, fine-tuning argument, necessary existence argument. And your arguments for non-existence of gods are exactly what?
Well, the thing is, all those arguments are flawed. So, for example, if you look at the cosmological argument, so it says that the universe began to exist. Now, we don't know if it began to exist or is infinite. So, for the conclusion of that premise to be true, all of its separate parts have to be true. And just the fact that we don't know that the universe began to exist shows that argument is flawed.
And the fundamental problem with this piece is that if the premises imply that the universe exists, then it would be a flawed argument. But if the premises are sound and valid independently, and they are, and the conclusion of those is that the universe exists, then it is perfectly acceptable evidence. And I understand why atheists say this, by the way. Atheists say this because they think that this has certain problems because it implies the result. Well, it doesn't. And if you think that it does, then you have to give an example where exactly in the premises it implies the result.
But like I said, one of it's three parts. So it's the universe began to exist. I mean, if you want to repeat it, because I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, what you were referring to is a very particular fallacy. It's called the question-begging fallacy that you were trying to imply, and many atheists do that, frankly. Now, the question there is that, look, and it's not that by the way, the deduction there is not that the universe began to exist. It's about it has a cause. So premise number one is that everything that begins to exist has a cause. Premise number two is the universe began to exist. And conclusion, therefore, is not that the universe began to exist. Conclusion is that, therefore, it has a cause. It is called logical deduction, and that is how it works.
But the thing is, the second part of that is not 100% certain. So the conclusion cannot be 100% certain. So that means the argument falls flat on its face.
So your argument is that you don't know if universe began to exist.
Well, from what we know, the universe it could have began to exist, or it could be infinite. Those are the
You see, this is where we get into some deeper problems, and I hope you will understand what I'm about to say the next. If you make a categorical statement and say that the universe did not begin to exist, and then I ask you, do you think it didn't begin to exist? Then the next thing I expect you to say, my dear sir, is, well, here is my evidence it did not begin to exist. But if you say that I don't know, then again, based on your lack of knowledge, you cannot say the entire argument is flawed because it's your lack of knowledge.
But I'm talking about the possibilities. I'm not thinking this autistic way that it has to be one or the other. For me, it has to be.
We have a lot of scientific evidence that it began to exist, which is the reason that the scientific paradigm changed their view in 1927. Why do you think they've changed their views on that? They all used to believe that the universe was eternal. That is not the case anymore. Why do you think that changed?
So you're appealing to authority. So as far as we know, I'm not talking about
I'm
this
appealing to
famous
authority.
scientist. Yeah. So you're saying this
Do you
famous
believe?
scientist said that.
Do you
Go on.
believe in evolution, sir?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know why we're talking about science. So let's stick to Islam. All right. Do you
Oh
want to do
well,
that?
we are talking. I am talking about Islam. Well, I am talking about philosophy, and I'm giving you the evidences for
Okay,
the
okay.
existence of God. And then you say that something did not happen. Then the only way to find that
But
out is
I
if we
mean,
employ
yeah.
science.
But I'm interested. Like, you sound like William Lane Craig with some Islamic masala.
I'm not going to respond to that because that sort of stuff we don't do that here. So, but what
I
we
mean, no,
do
that's
say
what
is
you got
that
all
if you
William
have
Lane's
the
arguments.
evidence,
But then,
yeah, sure.
yeah.
It's not William Lane's arguments. These arguments are there for best part of 2,000 years, and William Lane Craig is one of the proponents who talks about them. Why do you think he calls cosmological argument the calm cosmological argument? Why do you think that is the case?
Okay. Let's just say that your proposition is true, that the universe began to exist, which we don't know. That's still up in the
I
air.
do.
Where's your Nobel Prize for proving this? Nobel, where is it? I don't see it. I mean, do you have it? I haven't seen it
No,
on the Nobel. I haven't
no,
seen
no,
it on their website.
no, I don't. I don't.
Okay. But
But
anyway,
but
let
but
me
I'm
get to
but
my
I'm going to
point.
give you but I'm going to give you a minute to explain yourself that if I believe something to be scientifically true, do I have to have a Nobel Prize?
No, that is what that would do. That would sort of give some credence to your claim.
And if I don't have Nobel Prize, you are going to reject it because there is no Nobel Prize there.
No, I mean, for me, like, if you had proved that the universe began to exist, like, I would see your name on BBC News, CNN, all over the place. I just don't see you. I mean, I'm not trying to be frivolous, but I mean,
Oh,
for
you are
me, it's a
not.
bit far. It's a bit farcical. But okay, let's just say your proposition is true that the universe
Oh
began
no,
to
sir.
exist. Go on.
I'm really look. At the moment, we are not doing an intellectual debate, right? It's more of a word play because by this, I can give you an opportunity to think that when you make these claims, then what exactly goes wrong there? So, for example, when you say, "Look, you don't have a Nobel Prize, therefore that can't be true." Well, you believe in evolution. Do you have a Nobel Prize for that? No, you don't. But then you will say, look, every other biologist accepts that. But then you say that's argument from authority. So literally everything that you are saying, you are negating it in the very next line. And that is why I say this is not an intellectual discussion we are having. This is just like a word play. We're just dealing with words and analogies here and there. So I get back
Okay.
to the point I was making. When you say that the
Okay.
universe did not begin to exist,
I didn't say that.
okay, then you have absolutely nothing against
I said there's two plausible options.
but then you have nothing against the cosmological argument because to be able to prove it false or claim it to be false, you need to have an alternative to say this is why it is false. But if you say, look, I don't know, but then in the very next breath, you cannot say because of my lack of knowledge, this is not a sound argument. Then leave it as it is and say, look, I don't know. It could be true, it could be not, it could not be true, one way or the other.
Okay, but like I explained, because the Kalam cosmological argument for the conclusion to be 100% certainly true, it requires all of its premises to be 100% true, and it's not. But anyway, let's just say for argument's sake, let's just say that the universe began to exist and it had a creator. Now, that's a position of deism. So we've come to a position. Well, not even deism, because okay, so we've got this creator. How do we know that this creator is supernatural and not supernatural?
You see, the problem now we are having is that you are trying to have a conversation on creator without any making claim. And I have no further reason to continue with this conversation for a very intellectual reason. And that is that what we cannot do is keep on questioning things with the implication that this is not true, but on the other hand, I have absolutely no claim. And that's why I say that being an atheist is a very, very difficult thing. I would be intellectually frustrated if I ever become an atheist, God forbid. But this is an epitome of every conversation I have with atheists that, look, you have to prove, and you have to prove because I think you're wrong. But when it comes to me proving that claim, I'm right in the middle. And that is why I say, my dear sir, atheism is not an intellectual position. It isn't. I'll ask you right at the start, do you
you
have
think it's
any
not?
evidence? Do you have any evidence for everything that you say? And you say, no, I don't. I am in the middle. If you're in the middle, there is absolutely no reason for you to continue with this line of questioning, except for if you come as a genuinely person who is inquisitive, someone who wants to learn about different systems. In that case, yes, it is our job to provide good answers. But if you come as a debater and say that, look, I have no premise, but you're wrong, give me one reason to respect that position. One reason.
Oh, okay. So I'm giving you a concession just for argument's sake to say, let's say the universe began to exist. Now, how do we go from there to the universe? The universe began to exist and there was a creator. So how do we know? I'm talking about knowledge, not belief or confidence. How do we know that that creator is supernatural? Then from there, how do we know that that supernatural creator is Allah and not one of the hundreds of billions of other gods that have been claimed to have existed? And then from there, how do we know that this Allah accosted random desert nomads in the Middle East for a certain period of time? How do we know that he sent a angel Gabriel to a person in Arabia in a cave to pass him the message? How do you make all those jumps from the universe began to exist and it had a creator to Islam?
Allow me to repeat myself. As I literally a minute ago was said, that every atheist lives in the same illusion that, look, I don't have to make any claims and I can keep on questioning everything. So let me flip this and see how that feels. And of course, the difference between you and I will be that I would be talking as a debater, whereas you would be talking as someone who is interested in knowing, but still claims to be a debater, right? But I
haven't claimed to be a debater.
Oh, you are debating, aren't you? You're not asking these questions to increase your knowledge. You are debating with me. That's why you're here. And you're debating exactly on what premise are you debating on that you don't know? So here is a question. Let me ask you a few questions now. When you say that, how did this happen? How did that happen? How did this... I know you believe in evolution. You believe everything is just simply wrong. Islam is wrong. All the religions are wrong. There is no creator. Everything is just random.
Evolution isn't a belief.
Is it not?
The thing with science, it's true whether you believe it or not. Like, you do know that, right?
I do, actually. But let me put this to a test. When you say evolution is not a belief, what is your evidence that evolution is true?
My evidence? Well, there's genetic evidence, there's DNA evidence,
there's
transitional species.
Give me one. Genetic, go on. Choose your best.
Well, there's transitional species. I mean, I can't remember any off the top of my head, but...
Name one.
Yeah. But... the thing is, I don't know why we're talking about science. You seem to be like you're like a tailender facing bouncers from Shoaib Akhtar. You're not talking about Islam. Why are you being evasive?
Oh, you've noticed that I'm not talking about Islam? You've noticed that now?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Allow me to repeat myself again. When you make an active claim, I'm very happy to have a debate. This is one predicament I find every atheist in. That he comes with all these old guns blazing, gung-ho approach, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. But the moment you ask questions about evolution or cosmology or the existence or abiogenesis or anything of that sort,
I don't know why we're doing
why don't you talk about Islam?
And I don't know why we're doing mudslinging. I haven't called you an Islamist or a jihadist or whatnot. Let's be respectful, right? I haven't called you any names or said, you're like this kind of Muslim. Why would you do that? Play the ball, not the man. Play the ball, not the man. Let's not do ad hominems, yeah?
If you can do it, I'll be very, very happy to do so. So when you come off the sanctimonious horse of Shoaib Akhtar bouncers and the tail and all that, I'm very happy to have an academic conversation with you. Though I have a very good reason to believe that we are going to have a big struggle when it comes to the intellectual conversations, because intellectual conversations, the way in which they progress is you make a claim, you back that up. It doesn't work the way atheists think it does.
Okay.
You question everything what other person believes without knowing anything. And then when it comes to, okay, why do you think that is wrong? They say, oh, I don't have a claim. So I'm going to make you an offer. How about this? I give you an explanation of life about Islam. Not now, because a lot of people are waiting. And you give me an explanation as an atheist how life came into existence. And we have a good discussion on that. And if as an atheist, you can give me that idea, you can prove yourself. Because, and mind you, I'm using this word very carefully, prove, because you are no longer a person of faith. Now you are a person of evidence. So you cannot play, you do not have the facility that I have. Because to me, if you say that, look, here is my scientific evidence that your religion is wrong, and even though no such thing exists, but in a hypothetical situation, what if it did? I would still say that, look, mate, it's my faith, and I can get away with it because that's exactly what I claim it to be. On the other hand, in your case, you have deserted faith. Now you cannot say, I believe evolution to be true because I've placed my faith in biologists. Now you have to give your own evidence. Just a minute ago, I asked for your evidence. You could not give me any because you have a belief system going there. You have a faith in there. And literally everything
this is a verbal conversation. I can't provide you evidence in a verbal conversation. I have seen evidence in museums and other places. And I mean, if you go to the Natural History Museum in London, you'll be able to see evidence of evolution.
Yeah, sure, okay. Yeah. But you see, here is the problem. You cannot call it evidence.
Okay, I don't know. Are you trying to make a point? What do you mean?
I've just made a point. You cannot call that evidence.
Why not?
Good question. Because of two reasons. Reason number one is that you have not seen any of that happening. That is historical science, not operational science. So you have to believe in people, the curators working inside museums. You will have to place your faith in their word that this is how it happened. So that is not called evidence. It is called placing your faith. That's number one. Number two, even if you do become a scientist and you do become biologist and you do the experiments and all that, still your findings cannot be called as an evidence because at best you will find yourself in a predicament that if evolution were to be true, then you are a product of that evolution, including your brain would be product of that evolution. Evolution, which is a process which is irrational, out of control, random, stochastic, with no telos, somehow produced your brain. And you have no reason to trust your brain, which is a product of an irrational process. So whatever you would call evidence cannot be evidence.
Qaiser, are you a hard solipsist?
Oh, no, I detest that. That's one of the reasons I have disagreements with Bertrand Russell is because he used to be a solipsist, though he deserted that position later in his life. But no, I don't like that idea.
Okay.
But how do you respond to this? That if your brain is product of an irrational process, why would you trust your brain to call something evidence?
Well, the thing is, what we do know is, so if you have scientific evidence or scientific experiments, that process can be repeated with the same results. So there's certain observations those can be repeated. So I'm finding a bit ironic.
My dear sir, I'm not.
Hold on. I didn't interrupt you. I didn't interrupt you. Sorry.
Go on.
But yeah, so I'm finding it a bit ironic that you're berating faith as an epistemology, but then you just said that your belief in Islam is based on faith. So that's a bit of an intellectual contradiction.
It isn't. I'm consistent. I say I have faith. You say no, you are a person of evidence. But in the end, we are both coming with people of faith. So the contradiction lies on your end, not on mine. I'm perfectly consistent with my position.
I haven't made any.
But I still like to. You did. You said evolution is true.
Yeah, that's not a faith claim.
It is. What is your evidence then?
Well, like I said, in a verbal audio conversation, I cannot show you evidence. If I was in a certain kind of science lab or in a museum, then I could say, yep, here's the evidence. A, B, C, there you go.
No, you wouldn't. But I'm going to give you an opportunity. We can have this conversation later. You can find as much time, you can take as much time as you need and find evidence for evolution, right? But do take this question away with you, that whatever you would call evidence, why would you call it evidence when that evidence would be a derivation of your brain, the cells and the neurons working together, telling you that this is the evidence, whereas those cells are product of an irrational process with no telos, stochastic, random, called evolution. Why would you trust those neurocells in your brain that whatever it tells you is the evidence actually is the evidence?
I don't really know what point you're trying to make, because you're arguing semantics and you're being very pernickety. So I don't see. It's just like a debate tactic.
No, it isn't, because you wanted to have an intellectual discussion, and I just raised one of the philosophical points.
But I'd like to stick to Islam.
No. Look, that will not be a problem. The moment you make a claim that I know Islam is wrong and this is why it is wrong, I'm very happy to have a conversation with you. But if you say I don't know, but based on my lack of knowledge, Islam is wrong, sorry, sir, I have no reason to entertain you at all.
Okay, I don't know why you're coming with that antagonizing energy.
It's a very simple thing, I said, right? I mean, it's not a difficult thing to understand. It's a very, very simple argument. I would love to debate with people who believe Islam is wrong, but I'm going to test their premise. Why do they think Islam is wrong? Not just Islam, anything within Islam. I would love to have that debate. That's what I do for most of my times. But I need a person who can make a claim and provide the foundations for that claim. If the person says, I don't know, but my lack of knowledge is sufficient enough for me to know that you're wrong,
Okay,
I can't waste my time on that.
I'll say something on Islam. I'm happy to, because you seem to want to talk about everything but Islam, which is quite funny and ironic.
Like I said,
but
the moment you make a claim, I'm happy to have a conversation with you. Why do you think it's so difficult for you to make a claim here?
Okay, all right. So I will look at something in Islam. So in Islam, the Islamic narrative is that so Muhammad was in a cave, and he got accosted by an angel who told him to read. Now, Muhammad's saying that he saw an angel and an angel spoke to him. That's an empirical claim, right? Now, however, we know that, as far as we know, scientifically, there is no evidence at all of such a thing such as the paranormal species of angels existing. So this, I mean, so I had a friend who they believed that Jesus was visible to them in the form of the Christian European form, as in white robes and long hair and a beard, and you know how it looks. I don't have to explain it. So what actually happened was, so they were saying to my friend that, oh yeah, I'm the way, I'm the truth. So I mean, my friend was raised in a Muslim household, but then so they started seeing visions of Jesus in this Christian form. Now what happened is they were diagnosed as schizophrenic. So they were given these antipsychotics, and then suddenly all these visions of Jesus disappeared. So if we're looking at a plausible, I mean, I'm not saying this to demean Prophet, sorry, he's not my Prophet, Muhammad, but I'm saying this as a health condition. We know in modern times that when someone has schizophrenia, they would believe that they are seeing certain things. And I'll just put the disclaimer again. I'm not saying that I don't consider a health issue to be an issue where I'm belittling someone, right? Now,
but you do believe the health issue is there.
I mean, that's a plausible explanation.
No, don't go to the plausible explanations. Make a claim. And that is exactly where the atheists find themselves in a very, very difficult waters, and because they just come up with a bunch of words together here and there, and then, oh, but that is a plausible thing. Make a claim that there was no angel, there is no wahi, and we can carry on with that conversation. But if you say that, no, because I know exactly what will happen in the end, you will say, oh, I never said that didn't happen. I said there was no plausible explanation. For once, I am looking for an atheist who can make a positive claim and we can have a good conversation. Can you be the first one?
But I mean, how would I make a positive claim against astrology?
So okay. When you say,
I mean, you make a positive claim against astrology. Go for it.
No, but that is a positive claim when you say astrology doesn't exist, isn't it?
Okay. Do you believe in astrology?
I don't, but I have no problem with anyone who's believing it. I'll say if you believe that to be the case, sure. I mean, I have no problem with it, but personally, I don't think that is the case.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah. So the thing is, the Quran is
but now you've just just implied Quran is littered with.
So it has lots of weird stories. So I'll give you one example. So we got the story of Jonah, or Yunus, as he's called Islamically, living in a whale. Now, anyone who knows anything about biology, they will know what is the mechanisms or what is the organs that mammals use to breathe, right? So you know that, right?
Okay, sure.
Do you know that?
Yeah, I do, yes.
Okay, so if we were to look at that claim, then we know that oxygen and it doesn't it doesn't have access to a person's stomach, which is where Yunus or whatever his English name is claimed to have lived. So there are certain things which, I mean, you would just call it a miracle, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely, yes.
Right. So, I mean, I would ask you, why has no miracle happened since video cameras were invented?
It happens every day, actually, so far as atheists are concerned. But before I give you the example of why do I say that, let me summarize a couple of things. You see, not that you made a claim, but you alluded, you almost came close to making a claim that there was no wahi. And I asked you to make a specific claim. You very quickly deserted that and moved on to Yunus alayhi salam and the fish and all that. Okay, and you say, well, I would say that's a miracle. Absolutely, I'd say that's a miracle. And now you want me to talk about miracles. You want me to talk about the fish and Yunus alayhi salam and so forth. Okay, let's do that. And just in a minute, this is my prediction, right? Just in a minute, we will be leaving this topic and we'll go to somewhere else. So your question, why do I think no miracles happen since the cameras are the cameras are made? Here is the thing. Look at the atheistic claim that we have a tiny little thing called cell, and within cell we have RNA and we have DNA, and DNA, whenever it finds necessary to produce new proteins because they are essential for all life, DNA provides certain set of information to the RNA. RNA then copies it and verifies it, and that is mRNA, by the way, very particular RNA, and then it takes it to a different part of cell called the ribosome. That's where we have complete, for a lack of a better word, complete factories there, and they execute those precise instructions and they produce proteins. DNA is not intelligently designed, by the way. It is not created by God. It is not created by any intelligent agency. It just happened to be there. But somehow it knows exactly what proteins are required, and it knows exactly what recipes are required, and it produces the same recipe, and it gives it to the RNA, and RNA then gives it to ribosome, and that's where those proteins are made. Miraculous, isn't it? It gets it right every time.
Okay, I was talking about supernatural miracles.
Oh, this is natural. Miracles. So the natural miracles are possible since the cameras are invented.
Well, I mean, there's a saying, I don't know if you've heard it, from Arthur C. Clarke, that I forgot, but it's basically saying that any new technology is indistinguishable from magic. Have you heard that saying?
Sorry, say that again.
There's a quote by Arthur C. Clarke that any new technology is indistinguishable from magic. So basically, something like a tablet is, if you show that to people 200 years ago, they would think it's magic. That's
absolutely, yeah, true.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. We're not talking about Islam.
Like I said, you're talking about. Did I just say a minute ago that we will be leaving this miracle debate as well and we'll move to something else? Because that is exactly atheist zoo, my dear sir. I'm not saying this to demean you, but I'm just saying this so that after this conversation, you can go back and ask yourself, why do we do that? I started with one claim, then I jumped to another one, then I jumped to another one. I asked you a very specific thing. Here is a miracle of cell. There are cameras. It happens every day, billions of times, because we carry trillions of cells. Multiply that by 8 billion people, multiply that by billions of other beings that share this planet with us. It is happening every single day, and cameras are here. How do you explain that? And you say, oh, there are natural miracles, whatever that means. It's an oxymoron. If the natural explanation is there, it can't be a miracle. If it's a miracle, then it can't be natural.
Okay, but the thing is, you're not really answering questions. But the thing is, I don't really get, like, how do I speak to someone like yourself?
Again, I'm going to remind you, the moment you make a specific claim, I am going to answer that. But if you just play a safe game and say, I'm in between here and there and will not make claims, I asked you to make a specific claim about Wahi, you refused. I asked you to make a specific claim about the Wahi.
What's the Wahi? What's that?
You know, you were born a Muslim. Please stop it. You know what Wahi is. Revelation.
Tawheed?
No, Wahi.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I'll carry on. Yeah.
Right, okay. So I asked you to make a specific claim. You said, no, Yunus, Machli, all that. I said, well, okay, if you're not talking about that, let's move to that. And before I could answer, you said, you would say that a miracle. I said, yeah, that would be a miracle. And then I told you that in a minute, when I explain miracles to you, that they still happen so far as atheists are concerned, because your claim is that they don't happen since the cameras are invented, we will then move on to something else. Now, I need you to make
You're just playing word games.
Give me a very specific answer, mate.
You're playing word games.
Do you believe in the miracle of
can
cell?
Mean anything.
Miracle of the miracle in cell. How do you respond to that? Please be very precise. Don't go to anywhere else. Just here. The miracles don't happen since cameras are invented, and I've just given you one miracle. I'm happy to give you 20 more. But how do you answer this specific one?
The thing is, you're not answering my questions. But the thing
how do you answer this question?
I'm not coming in here as a biologist. That's not my. I'm a layperson in biology.
Stop making claims. Stop making claims.
What claims did I make? What claims? I didn't make any claims about cell biology.
No, well, you did not, but you did make about miracles that they don't happen. Look, literally everything that I question.
I have not used the word cell biology prior to my last sentence.
Oh, you did not, but you did say that the miracles don't happen since cameras are invented. Do you want me to give you another miracle if you're not happy with?
I'm talking about supernatural miracles.
So you say that there is a thing called natural miracles?
Your hair's playing now.
Are you saying that there is a thing called natural miracles?
There are things which may appear to be miraculous. If you use the word loosely, I was referring to supernatural miracles. So, exactly. For example, a man. Hold on. I'm not running away. So I'm talking about a man.
But I have to explain other people because I'm not really getting any intellectual worth whatsoever. None whatsoever. Don't be offended, my brother. Look, my brother.
I'm not offended.
Listen, my brother. Listen to me. To me, if you come back to Islam, that would be more than anything to me in this world. If I can protect and help another brother come off these evils of atheism and liberalism and everything else that goes on, that really.
I'm not a liberal, by the way.
Right? Fair enough. And all these other things that you believe in, I'm not asking you these questions because I want people to be put on place and to look. I don't have answer to this and answer to that. I'm just doing it for a very simple reason. I still believe that there is hope. I still believe that you and many other people who've left Islam because they've heard some content here and there, and they believe that to be true. And I this is not to say that those people are wrong, because nobody wants to deny Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were an absolute reality to you, you wouldn't deny Allah, right? That's a commonsensical thing. But obviously, somewhere in your rationale, you believe Allah's reality not to be true. Then it is my job to present to you that whatever you call your reality is untrue. And the day you come to me and you say, Brother Qaiser, no debates today. I genuinely want to learn about Islam. And I say, brother, let's do that. Ask any question on Islam, no problem. No debates. If I have the answer there, I'll give you right away. If I don't, I'll ask, give me some time, let me go and find out. I'll get back to you. You will find a different Qaiser there. But for the debates and all these, I'm sorry, I have to put that hat on. So I'm working in your interest, my dear sir. Sorry, go on.
Okay, I mean, I would say the fact that if Allah existed, it would be self-evident, and we would not be even having a debate or discussion in it. So, for example, we don't debate that the sun is the star of our solar system. Nobody debates that. It's self-evident. So, I mean, doesn't that tell you something?
It does tell me something, but it should tell you something else as well. That when you talk about a subject matter, the required evidence changes in accordance with the nature of that subject matter. Am I clear enough on this point? In fact, let me give you an example. It will help everyone understand. If I say that I have 10 pounds in my pocket for you, all you have to do is say, put your hand in your pocket and get the currency note out, that bill, and show me, because it is a tangible entity. But if I say, brother, I have a lot of respect for you in my heart, I will never expect you to say, put your hand in your heart and pull that respect out. I want to see it, because it is a metaphysical thing. It's a non-tangible entity. So when you talk about God, you cannot give examples things that you can see, even from the phenomenological, if you know what phenomenology is, right? The things that you can see, what we call mazahir. So you look at the sun, you look at stars, you look at all those things, you say, I can see them, but if I cannot see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, well, that means Allah doesn't exist. Well, you cannot see your anger, you cannot see your happiness, you cannot see your emotions. You don't know where emotions are driven. We have some mechanistic processes based in the brain, but they only have a very limited part. We still don't know where and this is called the problem of emergence in philosophy. All those things are there, we cannot see, but we know they exist. Because the nature of evidence has to be different, because the entity we are talking about, the subject matter we are talking about is different. So I'm going to make you an offer. How about this? You contact me and you say, Qaiser, I have this question. How come we cannot see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How come we cannot do this, we cannot do that? I'd be very, very happy